What is up, players? It's Lewis the Necromancer here. Before we get started with the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press that like button and ring the bell for notifications. Okay. Charlie, I'm off to the supermarket. Be a good boy now. Brains!
That's right, players. Today we're going to paint up this Dead Walker zombie, and I had a lot of fun painting him up in this green skin tone. Usually the cartoony colors, green and blue and those kinds of non-traditional zombie colors are not really ones that I'm very comfortable painting, so this was a good exercise for me, and I had a lot of fun. I think I could see myself painting up a bunch of these, maybe not all of them, in my Dead Walker zombie mob, but I hope you give it a try. Paint beyond what you're comfortable or used to doing, and you might find yourself enjoying it. Hey, if you don't have any Dead Walker zombies and you'd like to add some to your collection at a very nice discount, then click my affiliate link down below in the description. Usually they're $60, but my affiliate link will give you a $9 discount on that, so you're only paying $51. And it's great. It helps out the studio. So thank you for that. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Get your paints, get your brushes. Let's paint this zombie. Brains! All right, players, so the colors we're going to need for this recipe are Death World Forest, Embarks Earthshade, Elysian Green, and my favorite, Ogren Camo. This is obviously going for a very green-skinned zombie. I'm used to painting more naturalistic zombies like Walking Dead, dark grays, dark skin tones, bone colors. But I've noticed, especially with their vampire counts turning into soul-blight gravelords, Games Workshop has wanted to focus more on the cartoony, colorful side of this faction, possibly so that it'll be more palatable to parents of kids who want to get into the game. Don't paint them all bloody and realistic, Timmy. Let's make them green and funny, like Frankenstein monster, like the zombie shows as a kid, where all the Plants vs. Zombies. That's a perfect example. All right, so Death World Forest is going to be our first color, and I'm painting right on top of a gray seer undercoat. So the gray seer undercoat is nice and bright. It allows me to see where all of the areas of the model are. I think people use it for working with contrast paints, but I am not a fan of the contrast method. I've tried it a couple times. Most of the times I've seen it, I haven't really thought it was something that my style, something that I would like to do. I like the more like fully painted looks of the models when I'm done with them. I feel like contrast, you see a lot of the undercoat underneath. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe if I tried some more models, but I tried painting a couple of Space Marines with contrast paints, and I tried, just for a variety, I tried painting a what's it called, a lizardman. I couldn't remember the name of them. A Saurus warrior. Okay, so Death Guard green. Very sickly pea green base color. The reason I'm not going to do a how to paint zombie, just like a standard tutorial like how I do for all of my miniatures, is because there is just so many varieties or combinations or possibilities of building these zombies out. Your zombie isn't going to look like mine. 9 times out of 10, your zombie is going to look completely different from anything that I make. So saying this is how you paint it is kind of irrelevant. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of little painting guides to help you paint through all of the different components of a zombie model, such as the cloth, the weapons, the skin, like we're doing now. I felt this was the most important because it's the most prominent thing on a zombie miniature. If you notice with any kind of medium that the zombie is in, think in movies and TV shows, the zombie's skin is usually a very huge part of the design process. Like, you don't notice what a zombie is wearing most of the time. It's very drab, dark colors, very forgettable, but you see the zombie's face, the skin tones, the gray, rotting flesh if they're still pretty freshly turned. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in our tutorials. And if we see any fun things that we can paint, like these guts, then we'll get to those. But mostly in these tutorials, I'm going to be talking about the skin tones. Alright, so we're going to let that dry, and then when we come back, we're actually going to be using Agrax Earthshade to paint over everything on this model. So we want to make sure that we let him dry a little bit. And since I'm not doing a full-on tutorial, you'll see that I'm going to come back and most of this model is going to be painted up, like the rest of him, just so that there's a little bit of coherency. Alright, we'll see you in a little bit. So now that the skin tone has dried and most of our base colors have dried, what I'm going to do is hit the model with Agrax Earthshade. Agrax Earthshade, if you are a new painter or if you have a horrible memory, is a very good dark wash. It's not as dark and black as known oil. It has a lot of dark brown to it, so when you slap it on a model and you let it just draw down to the bottom here, you want the gravity to let it take the wash all the way down. It's going to look messy, that's fine. The important thing is that you let your model dry enough, because if your model's paint is still wet, the base colors, then it's going to blend, bleed, it's going to carry over into other areas of the model. Like, you don't want his skin color on his trousers. It's just not going to be good. It's going to be more cleanup work you're going to have to do later. So I'm just going to keep drying the paint down. And the tricky thing about this paint too, any kind of wash, is that if it pools in any area, then there's going to be a really dark, splotchy, like almost like an oil stain later that you cannot get rid of, that you're going to have to paint over. So what we're doing is just finding those oil splotches, those pools, and we're just going to be dabbing our paintbrush so that it can pull away any of that excess wash. Alright, since you're going to be doing so many of these zombies, if you decide to do them in this color, this is where you would naturally take a break, grab a cup of coffee, watch some Walking Dead, and we'll come back when the wash is dried overnight. Alright, our next step, now that the skin has had a chance to dry, is we're going to highlight back up with Death Guard Green. So guys, the secret for painting any color is that we do the base coat, and then once the base coat is dry, we hit it with a wash, in this case Agrax Earthshade. And now we're going back in with Death World Forest. And we're going to be bringing those colors back up. Agrax Earthshade is a great color. It adds immediate shading, very natural looking dark shadows, and it finds all the crevices and creases, but what it doesn't do, unfortunately, is keep the brighter colors bright. That's where we're going to come in, and we're going to hit like the shoulders. Now, I'm doing this model, and whatever model you're going to be working on is going to be different. Maybe you're working on a female model, maybe you're working on a model with hair. This one is obviously no hair, so your mileage may vary, but when you're highlighting back up to the base color, the main thing to remember is we want to keep that Agrax Earthshade in the shadows. When you're working on the face, you want to keep the Agrax Earthshade in the hollows underneath the cheek, and the neck, on all of the sunken areas of the model, and any areas where you can see the skin had torn away. So forgot some toes here. So just paint the skin, feather that color on as much as possible. And don't be afraid if you make any mistakes, guys. You're really painting for yourself here, because you're going to be painting so many of these. These guys are the perfect models to test your skills on. They die so quickly. Well, they're already dead. They come and go so quickly. They're not on the field for very long. It's the perfect model to test your skills on. Now, I would say it was even more so in the 90s and 2000s when these things were like $30 a box for 20. Now I think the box of 20 costs like $60. But if you would like $9 off, $51, I can get you an affiliate code. Click the link down below in the description and I will get you that $9 discount and get it shipped to you right away. It's an affiliate link, so I will be getting a little bit of compensation for that, so thank you for checking it out if you are so inclined. Now we're going to go on with Elysian Green. This is your first highlight, so now we're going to be looking at your model and figuring out, okay, where are the higher areas where the light is hitting the model? So I can see right now the face, the cheekbones, the brow, his neck, breastbone, his shoulders, his fingers. We want to leave the darker colors down in those shadows and recesses, and we're going to really be focusing now, because this is the color that your opponent or anybody who walks by the table is going to be seeing. Your highlight colors really inform the viewer what the skill level is of the painter, so we want to try as much as possible to respect the coat of paint that is underneath. Oh, look, he's got little man boobies. And build upon it. And with zombies, I feel like, you know, their skin is stretched, right? Because they've been parched and drying out in the sun. So when I'm working on the paint strokes that I use for them are short and tend to be diagonal. Even if there's a straight line like here on his arm, I'll tend to go top left to bottom right and almost like a diagonal, because to me that gives the indication more of sun bleached, left out in the sun. This diagonal paint stroke is more, I think, forgiving also. I use it on Space Marine armor sometimes. It makes everything look just a little bit more lived in, a little bit less clean and off the assembly line belt, and it really works for my style of painting. Okay, you see he's got his brain exposed here. So we're only really working on zombie skin, but I'm also going to give you just a little bit of a pointer for the other parts of this model. You see that he's wearing a bit of clothes. If you're painting a model with more clothes than this fellow here, then you want to pick a color for the clothes that aren't going to contrast too much with the color of the skin you're going for. So this gentleman is obviously a very, very bright green, but say I was to paint one that looked a little bit more realistic with more skin tones, more pink and possibly like Caucasian skin tones, more freshly turned zombie, then I would probably choose an outfit with a little bit of color to it. Whereas the more cartoony the color scheme like this, the more somber and drab I want to keep his clothes. So this is a dark blue trousers, gray wood, gray roots, nothing too crazy there. Okay, so the great thing about highlights is you can just move on to the next one. So if you're assembly lining these, then it's really a good process. Ogren Camo is our final color. This is what I like to call the pop highlight, the one that really elevates your miniature and makes it look like you put in the work. So if I'm looking at this miniature on the table, I'll see, oh yeah, look, you put some highlights on. But you add a pop highlight, guys and gals, and that is what really makes your model stand out. Now with this, I'm really just going to be focusing, hey, man boobs, right on the sharpest parts of this model. So right here where the collarbone is most prominent, just this part of the shoulder, just his nose, just the furrow part of his brow, his cheek, his chin, his knuckles. Oh, I think I missed his feet with the last color. I'm gonna go back for that ochre and green. Work on these feet. Feet are interesting. It's where most of your shade is gonna gather and accumulate. So you have you risk the possibility of the shade pooling in the feet, drying between the toes. So you really want to make sure that you, when you add your wash, that you are checking to make sure that it's not pooling at the feet. And if it looks like your highlight is a little too stark against the colors that were there before, then just bring them back down, drop them back down with another application of Agrax Earthshade. But for now we're doing okay, so I'm gonna add Ochre and Camo to just where the little knuckles of the toes are. And let's try this at the knee. He's got a little bit of a scar. Then his calf bones are pretty prominent, his calf muscles, so I'm gonna add these very thin lines to make it look like the skin is really stretching. Like at any second, he could take a wrong step and his whole entire leg will just pop open because his skin is so thin right at the calf. Okay. At the back, we're continuing with the pop highlight. So I'm gonna do the elbow, little forearm, just the curve of his shoulder. Here he's got a wound in his back. The wound by his exposed brain. And here at his elbow. I like to paint the elbows because that pop highlight in the elbows, look how that plays really nicely in the light. All right, like I said, you don't have to be too precious with this guy. He's a zombie. He knows what's going on. So, a little bit of a talk on the gore. These zombies don't have much gore. The old zombies had guts spilling out, intestines, a lot of bloody open wounds everywhere. But if you want to get a little bit of that in these models, then you can just add some corn red. You can also add a Gal Vorback red. It's a nice dark red. It's really great for exposed open wounds. You don't need much. You don't need much at all. So I'm just going to paint some of this right here. Now you might be asking, why don't I just paint blood for the blood god? Well, that's actually going to be a little bit of a glossier color. And I like to actually paint the corn red first. Shows me where that's going to go. If I wanted to, could even do a little thin line of blood, corn red here. Show that he's still got a little bit of the red stuff sloshing about. When you think about it, like zombie movies and stuff, they don't have a lot of blood. The zombies have more like this black sludge. So it's really up to you how much you want to do. And with every zombie tutorial I'm going to be releasing, I want to paint in the eyes a little bit. So I'm going to use Ulthuan Gray. Actually, no, take that back. I'm going to use Rakarth Flesh. I tried Ulthuan Gray on my test zombie, and that guy's eyes became a little too white. I want it to look a little bit more milky and a little bit more toned down and drab. So we're actually going to just do a very, very thin side. The great thing about zombies is their eyes are clouded over, so you only see the whites of their eyes. You don't have to paint any irises. So if you get a little bit where it's not supposed to be, I would just go down to my base color, Death World Forest, and clean up an aisle eye. Tighten up at the top and at the bottom. If you wanted to go with lighter, with a lighter eye color, then you could go with, like I said, Ultra 1 Gray, or you could go with a lighter beige color such as Pallid Witch Flesh or Shopty Bone, something like that. But that is gonna do it. You know what I'm gonna do, just because that white around his eye is bothering me just a little bit, I'm gonna take some Agrax Earthshade and get into the eye socket. Just a little dot to make him look like he's not bugging his eyes out so much. There we go. A little bit more. So there you have it, guys. My quick tutorial for doing zombie skin in a colorful green, cartoony green that Games Workshop is going for. If you'd like to see how I paint them in some other different color tones, I'm going for a range so that I can paint all of my zombies up in different ways. Check out also how I painted up my rusted metal here, my weapon. I'm going to be using this for all of the rusted iron that I have in my army, and you can check out that tutorial. It is pretty quick and easy and very simple, just 3 colors. So thanks for watching, guys. Join the Discord. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe, leave me a comment, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.